Hey Mohammed, how are you doing today?
Hey Zach, I'm good. How have you been?
I'm good too. Although I'm having this error that's occurring.
Tell me more.
Um, so when I try to work in a notebook on this
Uh,
project and I go to run the code chunk, I'm getting an error
what's the error?
saying the module's not found and there's no module named scripts.
So do you actually have a folder named scripts?
I do.
Okay, so I can see that in that first cell of your notebook, you're trying to import a module named scripts, and inside that scripts, we assume there's a function called create plots. But then, according to that exception, that stack trace, it says that it can't find a module named scripts. Let's see what happens if we run it in the Python REPL.
Okay, so we can try to
Okay.
run this in the REPL.
Yep.
Run scripts, import, create.
By the way, you know you can copy paste, right?
I'm keeping all of your insults in so you seem mean, but none of the insults I give you. So you just seem cold hearted and mean. Uh oh, it's
Right.
working here.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
So, okay, before we dive into the details, let's do some diagnostics.
Okay.
In the REPL, could you import the sys module and then just run sys.path. Now, can we do the same in a cell in the notebook?
Yeah. So if I import sys and then I run sys.path. Okay, so they're different.
In what way?
Uh, Up here, there are more things in the path.
Mm-hmm. So you know that the part that has just the codes, that is referring to the current path you are in. So let's figure out what is your current path. So in Python, there's this module called OS. Can you import the OS module?
Should I do it in the REPL or in a notebook?
We'll do both.
Okay.
So yeah, it doesn't matter which one you pick first.
So we'll be consistent. We'll come down here.
Okay. And then I think the function to get the current path is get CWD. Can you try get and then autocomplete? Try tab. Tab again. So do you see?
Get CWD, yep.
All right. Cool.
Oops.
Function call. Yep. Okay,
Okay.
and then do the same in the notebook.
So here I'm in my path includes, I'm in the folder notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm just in the broader folder for the
Right.
project.
So if Python were to search for a module called scripts, it will first search. Well, I don't know. I can't remember the order, but what will happen is that it will search in your current position,
Mm-hmm.
and then also in its libraries folder. So in this case, it's going to be that USR local lib. And so if you were to run so in the REPL, when you import scripts, it won't be able to find it in in its libraries folder because there's no you didn't do pip install scripts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a folder called scripts in its current position, so that's why it works. But in the notebook case, it's not in your Python libraries, and also it's not in your current position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem.
Okay. So I need to change within the notebook, I need to change the path so that we're just in this financial market prediction folder as opposed to in that subfolder notebooks.
Yes.
Now I know how to do it, but I'm curious how you would do it.
I have 3 ways. How many ways do
Interesting.
you have?
I could do it in 4, but I'm curious what 3 you would choose.
Okay, the easiest fix is to cd up.
So that would be to change directory and change it at the top of the script to be the parent directory here.
That's right.
Okay. I see one potential problem with that, though tell me if it is a problem, that if we were to do that, we would have to do it in every single notebook.
Yes.
So that seems problematic.
Not so problematic, more inconvenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You must remember to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ugly, but it's quick. So let's do it,
Okay.
and then I'll show you the other 2 methods.
So I'm going to do it up here because this is where I would do it in a normal notebook.
Okay.
And so this would be in the OS library, right?
What I meant was you can use the Python magic command
Oh, okay.
to change the path. Yeah. Sorry, the notebook magic command. But you can't mix magic commands and code. So you have to do it in a separate cell. I would insert a cell on top of the current one, yeah.
Is that the double percentage sign?
For CD, no. So single percent is line magic, double percent is cell magic. So
Okay.
this CD is a cell magic. Sorry, it's a line magic, so just single percent.
And then this will run it as though it were a bash command, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I can change the directory to,
Just go one step on top. How would you do that in bash?
I would copy and paste the full path I want. I'm sure there's a shortcut.
Yes, it's double dot.
Really?
Yeah. So execute this.
Huh. I had no idea. I've never seen that before.
Okay. Cool.
So
So now if you execute the import in the next cell, it will work. Yep.
Truly like magic.
Right. And so, now we're going to try the other 2 methods. And to make sure that, we didn't mess with the current folder, in the first cell, let's also print the current working directory.
Okay. So should I change it back to what it was?
We're gonna delete it later.
Okay.
But before that, I want to show you that, how do you print the current working directory
Okay.
in. So do you know how to do it in bash? So now we're gonna, so the first method was to just use the line magic to cd one step above.
Okay.
So now let's talk about the second method. But before that, let's reset our environment. So because right now our current working directory is in the root folder of the project, right? But we want to go back to the notebook. So either we cd back to the notebook or we just restart the kernel. So let's restart the kernel.
Okay.
Yep. And then execute that pwd thing.
Okay, so we're back in the notebooks folder.
Right. So you can delete that first cell. Okay, so the second method is to modify that sys.path list. So what you can do, in a new cell, just sys.path append.
In a new cell, you said?
In a new cell, yeah.
And then sys.path
Append.
That's not right.
No, yeah, sys.path. So sys.path is a list, right? And then in Python, the list has a method called append.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I see.
Add, yeah. And I'm not sure. Oh, it's a string. Not sure whether it accepts a string or a list, but let's try a string. So just put the project's root folder there.
The project's root folder? So the whole thing up here?
No, so it's workspace. So yeah, that first thing, except for the notebooks part.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and I need
then
to import.
just to make sure that we're doing it right, you don't have to import it again.
I didn't
because
run
you didn't
this cell.
run it. Oh.
Yeah.
And then also just to make sure that we modify the list, print out the value again of sys.path.
So I can run this right here. And then I'll run this line. And then we can see it again.
I'm not sure whether that will work. Did it work? Yes, it worked. I was going to have you do it different cells so you can compare before and after.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Here, we can go ahead and...
Yeah, I would say let's restart and then do that. Yeah, just like that. So restart.
It's not a function call.
Okay.
Now we append.
Then print out.
And we can see we've appended the last item.
So now, if we run that import statement, what happens?
Success. Now I have a question.
Yeah.
How is it determining which of these paths to follow? Is it always the final one?
No, it's gonna look at each of these paths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the order, I think, is top to bottom.
Which would make sense. Yeah.
I think so. Oh, but it could also be, right? It will look at the current working directory first, and then what is in here.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But that's like, architecture details doesn't concern us as, practitioners.
I think that teaches us a larger lesson, though. And it's don't name your functions the name of something that already exists that's popular. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So things like utils is probably a bad idea. Scripts.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's method number 2. The drawback of method number 2 is also similar to method 1, which is you have to do it in all the notebooks. And this is longer as well, right?
Yeah. So we should restart again.
Yes, we should. To talk about method number 3.
Okay, and just to make sure that worked, we'll print out the working directory, and we're back in notebooks.
Yes. Okay. So it turns out that there is an environment variable that you can modify to tell Python where else it should look for libraries when you run an import statement. That environment variable is called PythonPath. So what we should do is that we should modify our Docker file to include this environment variable. The way to do it, we can do it in Dockerfile, but we can also do it in the devcontainer.json file.
Okay. Which way is preferable?
Can
you
go to the Docker?
I think I have an answer.
Oh. You want to hear mine?
I'd like to guess.
Okay. What's your guess?
I think it's going to be preferable to do it in the Docker file because the JSON file is strictly related to VS Code.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing it in the Docker file would mean if somebody's not running it in VS Code, it would do the same thing.
Yes, you are right. But how will you know where the file will be mounted when you're defining that Docker file? Because right now, when you create this Docker file, it's automatically mounted in a folder called workspaces / your project name. Now, if the person is not using VS Code, so you say, okay, I'm going to update the environment variable in Docker file. How will you know where he's going to mount it?
That's a great question. This is what I do to my students. I say, that is a wonderful question. What do you think?
So that's why this comes back to the lesson here is that it's really, if you're going to work in a team, it's really important for you to standardize on your tooling. Unless you say that your teams are they're really seasoned developers, they hardcore developers, so they prefer to use Vim or Emacs. Then you can say, all right, by default I'm going to support VS Code, but if you are going to use your own tooling, it's fine, but figure out yourself, Right. So since the auto mounting to the workspaces folder is handled by VS Code, I think we should modify the VS Code config.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would mean going into the devcontainer.json file?
That's right. And then if we look up the documentation of the schema of this JSON file, we will see that there is a command called container env. And I think you can count on autocomplete to figure this out. So if you go to the last line of this file, and then put a comma after line 48, put a comma at the end of line 48, okay? And then now this is, so do you know how JSON files work, their format?
Yeah, I have a rough sense. I've worked with them before, but it's been a while. It's sort of like in Python, it's similar to a dictionary where every value is itself a list. Is that correct?
Every value is itself a list. No, it can be a string.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm used to thinking of JSON files of very large data sets where it's nested within each other. Lots of nesting is what I always think of with JSON, but maybe that's just bad experiences.
Well, the important thing to know is that JSON files are dictionaries of keys and values. The keys must be a string, and the values can be, there's flexibility there.
Okay.
Can be a string, a number, a list, right? So now, if there should be a key called container env. So if you just open bracket and then type con, yeah, you see that, the first one?
Yep.
Yeah. So according to VS Code, this key, container env, expects a dictionary because it has that curly brace. Now, if you look at the documentation, it will say that in this dictionary, the key is the environment variable, and the value is the value of the environment variable you want to create. So as I mentioned earlier, there's an environment variable called PythonPath. So let's put that there as a string. Remember, dictionary keys are always string.
Yep.
And it's also all caps,
Just path or the entire thing?
the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then, so yep, there's that normal separated thing. The value of this environment variable will be /workspace/ the project name.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to copy it so I don't make a mistake.
But you already did.
I already did it. Yeah. I put workspace instead of workspaces.
Right. Okay. So this works, but do you see a problem?
No, but I do have a question.
What's that?
I see up here the Python path listed already,
Uh-huh.
and it's listed in a different format and a different key. I'm starting to think though that this is for the actual interpreter.
Right.
Okay, and this is for the path that it defaults to, the working directory that it defaults to.
When it wants to import.
Okay, when it wants to import.
Yeah. So yeah, a bit of an unfortunate naming history there, right? PythonPath for the import part, and then PythonPath for the interpreter part.
Okay, so I think I do see the problem is that this needs to end in a slash.
I don't know,
Oh,
but that's also problem number 2. But problem number 1 is more I would say more pressing and more practical.
okay.
So okay, imagine that you are going to work in multiple different projects,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to standardize. So you say, okay, I'm gonna copy this dev container
Mm-hmm.
because everything is already pre-made for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you already defined the Python part, you define all the extensions you want to import, right? But then that line 49 is specific to a project.
That's true.
Yeah. So to fix that, we need to make this automatically get filled based on the current project that we are working on, right?
Yep.
So fortunately, if we look at the documentation of VS Code, they have some predefined variables for this kind of situations.
Okay.
And I'm gonna send you that variable name.
Okay. Container workspace folder.
Right. So that's the name of the predefined variable that, if you call it like this, will always return the project's root folder in the container. Yeah. So now what we should do for this change to take effect is to rebuild the container because we've modified its config. So save this file, and then do you remember how to rebuild a container?
Yep. I allow VS Code to do it for me.
Yep. Well done. So we've rebuilt the container so that our setting for the Python part takes into effect. So now let's go back to that notebook and run that import statement.
Oops.
But let's also print the current working directory just to make sure that we're still in the notebooks folder.
Okay.
Okay.
So now if I were to try to run this,
You can't. Oh wait, you can.
Now I can. Okay.
Okay, yeah, now you can. So run it.
I did. We can see the old result. We should get a new result. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so you are in the notebooks folder.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see what happens if you import that. If you run that import statement in Excel.
Oh, okay. So it's going to work. And here's why it's going to work. At first, I was concerned that it didn't work, but it will work because the only thing we changed was what path it looks for when importing libraries.
That's right.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Look at that.
So now let's look at what the sys.path list looks like now.
So we can
So do you
see
notice anything different?
we have the parent directory as one of the options.
Right. And just for fun, let's look at the value of that Python path environment variable that we created in the notebook. Sorry, in the Dockerfile, in the devcontainer.json file,
So this
through
is
the terminal.
okay. So this is a global variable.
It's a global environment variable.
Environment variable. Okay.
Yeah.
How would I go about looking at a global environment variable?
So there's a command called env that will list all the environment variables that your shell inherited. Yeah. So run that. Okay, so it's very long. So we need to filter this.
It's grepl, right? Or grep.
Grep, yes,
Yeah.
grep.
But I don't know how to use it.
Okay, so first you have to tell grep what to filter. So yeah, it's env. And then you have to pass the output of env into grep. And the way to do it is you use this thing called pipes.
Mhm.
So you do that vertical bar thing.
Okay. And do I add spaces?
Yes, spaces. And then the grep command.
Which is just grep.
Yep. And then what's the pattern you want to filter by? So the pattern will be PYTHONPATH.
Okay. And is that a space again?
Yes, space. And then by default, case matters. So uppercase everything. That's it. And then there we have it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So if we were to run this command before we did that change in the devcontainer.json,
Mm-hmm.
it will return a blank space because that environment variable doesn't exist. Yeah.
And this was set automatically by our Docker, if using that variable that they had, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And now we can just copy that Docker file for projects that have a similar setup and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. The benefits of standardization and developing inside containers.
Okay, well, thank you, Mohammed. Now I think I can start importing some of the functions I've been making.
Awesome. Looking forward to see what you come up with. See you next week.
See you next week, where I'll show you the fourth way of doing it.